What's going on, Fourth and Inches podcast listeners? How you guys doing tonight? I'm going solo. Stevie P here in the house going solo. Kevin had some stuff he had to do. So we're going to go over everything and figure out what we're doing this week in our ranks. First things first, right? Let's figure out this injury situation. I'm going to go over all the injured players, guys that are out, guys that are questionable, and elaborate on if I think they're going to play or not. Alright, so we will start with the running backs. We have Terrence West out, like we said, not worried about that. Andre Ellington with the quad is limited practice today. He's questionable going in. I do like Ellington if he plays in this game. The question is, I probably would have him ranked in my top 24 if he was playing, because the 49ers are terrible at stopping. They're the third worst team at stopping pass catching running backs. And I think, Drew Stanton's probably going to dink and dunk a whole lot. So keep an eye on that and see what's going on with that. Rob Kelly, limited practice, questionable. I told you guys, if I were you, I would drop Rob Kelly. I'm not very big on Rob Kelly. Just, he doesn't look good. Chris Thompson is the guy that you want to own in that backfield, and I don't see the matchups coming up to even why you would hold on to Rob Kelly. So, if you guys want to drop him, you can. If you're in a deep league, 14, 16 teams that you want to keep a hold on him, he is limited practice and questionable for this week. Might not play. CJ Prosise with an ankle was a full participant at practice today. We're going to have to figure out how they're using him, if they're using him at all. This week they said they're going to get Eddie Lacy involved, so we'll see how that happens and if that ends up working out. We got Devontae Freeman with a neck and shoulder. He was limited practice today. It seems like he's going to play. I think they're just being cautious with him, but I don't think he's going to get a full complement of snaps. I think there will be more of a timeshare there, but still he's good enough to, have in your lineup. Ezekiel Elliott playing for now. I know the other day we said that he was probably not playing. Well, he was definitely not playing, but I was wrong. It was a Hail Mary to whether he was going to play this week, and, they converted it. So, he's playing this week, and, at this point, who knows? I don't know if he's going to be suspended. I don't know if he's not going to be suspended. The league is having a hell of a time suspending this fucking guy, and I just don't know what's going on. I have him in a couple of leagues, so I'm happy that they are not suspending him. But in the same breath, I just want this saga to be over with. I'm sure, like you guys do. I would have rather him get suspended 2 or 3 games ago, so I have him for the playoffs. But in a perfect world, that would have happened. This is not a perfect world, as we all know. But it is what it is. Ezekiel Elliott is playing this week, and you're starting him. Pierre Garçon out for the season with a neck injury. Pierre wasn't really having that great of a season, so it's not a devastating injury here. It's sad to see a good player go down to injury, like we've seen so many this year. But Pierre Garçon will be out for the rest of season. Jamison Crowder didn't practice today. Seems unlikely to go this weekend. So, if you have Jamison Crowder, he had a good game last week. I think it was 9 for 81. It seemed like they were starting to get him involved, and he's not going to play this week. So, he's a hold. Kenny Golladay, hamstring, didn't practice today. He had a limited practice today. He did return to practice today, but they're saying he's doubtful for the game. Marquise Lee with a knee, limited practice today, is questionable. He's questionable, but it seems like he is going to play from things that I'm reading. So, just keep an eye on that if you need Marquise this week. Jeremy Maclin, shoulder, limited practice. He is going to play in this game. I actually like Jeremy Maclin in this game. So if you have him, I would start him. I could see some targets going his way. And the Tennessee Titans have a really tough time stopping number one wide receivers, and he is their number one. So I could see Jeremy Maclin, having a solid game for you if you start him as your wide receiver 3. Emmanuel Sanders, ankle, limited practice today. He's questionable. You got to keep an eye on that because it's something that we're not sure is going on. They're playing against Philly at 1:00, so you will know early in the game. Early in the Sunday matchups. So just keep an eye on that and make sure that he is playing. If he is playing, then I'm playing him because, I think he could have some targets in this game, and they kind of need him back in that offense. Coles Beasley with the concussion. He was full participant. He cleared the concussion protocol. He should be available for this game, barring any setbacks. Adam Humphries, ribs, full participant today. He has the questionable tag, but he did practice in full. Mike Wallace did practice in full. Devontae Parker with the ankle practiced in full. Des Bryant with the knee, full participant in practice today. So no worries about Des at all. Brandon LaFell, hamstring, he practiced in full. Sterling Shepard, ankle, practiced in full. Looks like he's going to play this week. Corey Davis, somebody I'm really excited about. If you guys remember early in the season, I was telling you how I love this kid. I love his game tape coming out of college. Marcus Mariota, showed you in week 1 he gave him 6 targets. I believe he had 63 yards on 6 targets. I think they could build a chemistry, and he's somebody that I'm really looking forward to the second half of the season watching play and seeing how he progresses, especially with Marcus. I think those two could be dynamic, and I said that in the beginning of the season. Now I'm saying it still. There's very few guys that get to spend a lot of years with each other, and it seems like these two guys are going to get to do that. And I love Corey Davis, so keep an eye on that. And if he's on your waiver wire, I would definitely pick him up. Love Corey Davis. So we'll get to the quarterbacks. We got Jameis Winston with the shoulder. He was a full participant in practice. Yeah, he was a full participant in practice today. During the week they had him very light practices. He wasn't doing much. I think they tried to hold off his throwing at all, until basically last second, and he was throwing on Friday, so it looks like he is going to play in this game. Joe Flacco concussion. We all saw that nasty hit he took on the Thursday night game against the Dolphins. By the way, I don't think that hit was dirty. I know a lot of people are saying that hit was dirty. If you're a quarterback and you're running with the damn ball, he should have slid 2 yards earlier. Do I think he could have pulled back a little bit? Yeah, he might have been able to pull back a little bit, but at that point, Joe Flacco looked like he was trying to run still, and if you watch that play, it's such a bang play. Kiko Alonso is not a dirty player. I had him in Buffalo. I watched him play in Philly. I've watched him play with the Dolphins, and he's not a dirty player, to me. So I just think that was kind of a bang thing, and fortunately Joe Flacco is okay, so not a big deal. Jay Cutler, full participant with the ribs. Cam Newton, shoulder, was limited in practice, but I think that's, they're just trying to, get him ready for the game. But he should be, fine for this weekend. Jordan Reed did not practice. He is out this week. Martellus Bennett, shoulder. He hasn't practiced all week. He's looking very doubtful for this game. I really don't see a way that he really even plays in this game. So if you have Martellus Bennett, you're sitting him. Delaney Walker with the ankle, very limited practice all week. We've seen Delaney Walker injured before, and he basically doesn't practice at all when he's injured. So, we're really just going to have to pay attention to, Delaney Walker this weekend and see what they say about him playing. Zach Ertz with the hamstring, he was limited in practice. From what I'm getting from, beat writers from Philly, it doesn't sound like he's going to miss this game. I would keep an eye on it just in case, in warm-ups he tweaks it again or, anything like that. Guys with injuries you just want to keep on top of. So you might want to keep on top of Zach Ertz in a really good matchup this week against the Broncos. The Broncos are giving up, I believe, the 6th most fantasy points to tight ends, or maybe 5th. But, they're giving a lot of points up to the tight end position. We have Ryan Griffin with the hip. he's full participant in practice, so he's definitely playing. Jimmy Graham had that ankle. He was limited during the week, but past 2 practices he has been a full go. So with kickers is really the only other injuries we have here. We have Dan Bailey. He is out for the next couple of games. We have Randy Bullock. They actually signed a kicker. I cannot remember his name. Not somebody that I'm sure anybody is starting unless you absolutely have to. But Randy Bullock, they did sign somebody there, so I'm assuming he's going to be out for this game. And then Adam Vinatieri, he had that little back issue, if you guys remember last week, but he is a full participant in practice, and he will play. So that is it for injuries, guys. We will get into the rankings. Alright, so I'm going to start off with quarterbacks. My quarterback that I like the best this week is Russell Wilson. I have Dak Prescott at number 2. I have Matt Stafford at 3. Drew Brees at 4. Jameis Winston at 5. Derek Carr at 6. Alex Smith at 7. Carson Wentz at 8. Cam Newton at 9. Jared Goff at 10. Marcus Mariota at 11. And Kirk Cousins at 12. Really just looking at it. Russell Wilson has a great matchup with the Washington Redskins. He's been so hot this past couple of games that they get on late rolls for some reason, and they just seem to always be just really good later on in the season, and it seems like they're starting to catch fire. Dwayne Brown signing, I know Kevin was really excited about it the other day. I think it's a really good signing for them. I don't know if that shows up on the stat sheet this week. I think that, as he learns the offense and learns how to play with his offensive linemen, he will get better with that offensive line, so that should progress. But Russell Wilson going up against the Redskins, it just looks to me like a matchup that they're going to take full advantage of, and Russell Wilson could have a really big game, especially if the running game has another tough time getting off the ground. If that's the case, Russell Wilson's going to have a big game, and I love him at number 1 this week. Dak Prescott, self-explanatory, scoring points every single week. Last week was a crazy rainy game, if you guys noticed. I know you guys, if you watched the game, it was just a monsoon out there, and Zeke was running so well they didn't have to throw. So they took it out of Dak's hands in a game that turnovers were a thing that could definitely happen, and just ran the hell out of the ball. So Matthew Stafford I have at 3. I know a lot of people are probably thinking that's high, but if you look at Matthew Stafford's stats in the past 2 seasons going back against Green Bay, he's had really good games against the Green Bay Packers. He just really seems to get up for this Green Bay Packers rivalry, and I know Aaron Rodgers is not on the other side of the ball, so they might be able to get a lead, and they might just play really good defense and maybe just try to smash the ball in the second half. But I still think that Green Bay is going to score some points in this game. So I think Matthew Stafford is my third favorite quarterback in this week. So if you got Matthew Stafford, definitely I would start him over a lot of guys. Drew Brees I have at 4. I told you guys I thought that game was going to be a shootout. The thing is with the Saints, where I have Brees so low, I have him at 4, is because I can see the possibility of the running game going off. Mark Ingram having a really good game, Alvin Kamara having a really good game, who I have both ranked in my top 12. So I could just see a game where it gets away from Drew Brees and they kind of start running the ball, because Tampa Bay's not able to score or whatever the situation may be. But Drew Brees, he's still a great start. He's good for 250 and 2 touchdowns basically every week. So I think you can bank on that in this game. Jameis Winston, I told you guys the other day I had him in some of my FanDuel lineups. I've been looking at this matchup a little bit closer because it's a 51 over under. It's a rivalry game, and I was really excited about it the other day. I started looking at the stats, and Jameis Winston actually has had some troubles against this team. Mike Evans especially, throwing the ball to Mike Evans has been rough. Mike Evans in 4 games against the Saints has 2 touchdowns and doesn't have more than a 50-yard game against them. So they do shut down Mike Evans for some reason, and I think that could give Jameis some fits. I have Deshaun Jackson ranked, I believe, in my top 30 this week. Might be even the top 25. I have to look at it again. But, just keep an eye on, what's going on in that game. You're starting Jameis Winston if you have him. He is playing, so, you start him if you have him. But, it worries me just a little bit. I know the over-under is really high in this game, and Vegas seems to like it a lot. But you know how sometimes that works out. They're lower scoring games than we think. But, everything points to it being a high scoring game, so just makes me a little bit nervous. Derek Carr, I have at 6. Derek Carr really liked this week. I have a feeling that this is going to be a sneaky shootout game, a really high scoring game. The Dolphins basically, Adam Gase basically was talking trash about his team and, saying how, they're the worst offensive in football. And honestly, when you hear that from your head coach, you do one of 2 things. Either you play better, you start trying to, really play good, or you fold. And it's too early in the season, and they have too many wins for me to believe that they're going to fold. I could see them slinging the ball in this game, and that just means it's going to be a high-scoring game. I have a feeling that it's definitely going to hit the over. Derek Carr is going to have to throw the ball. I like Amari Cooper in this game. I really like Amari Cooper in this game. I like Michael Crabtree in this game. I have Crabtree in my top 10 and Amari Cooper in my top 10. So, I think this is going to be a sneaky shootout game, and I want pieces of it. So if I can get Carr in my lineup, if you got Carr, you're starting him. I would start him over a lot of guys, Alex Smith, Carson Wentz, So I like Derek Carr this week. Alex Smith is my next quarterback. Alex Smith is the highest over under the week. It's 51.5. It seems to me that this game is going to shoot out in the worst way. The running backs are going to go off. It seems like the passing game could go off. These are just 2 not very good defenses going up against each other with really high-powered offenses. So what to expect from this game, who knows? I just expect a really high score, and I love Tyreek Hill this week. And guess what? Alex Smith is throwing him the ball. So, and I kind of told you guys, when you pay attention to that, if you look at the scores, when Tyreek has a good game, Travis Kelce doesn't. So you really want to pay attention to that. And I really think this is a Tyreek Hill game. I don't think this is a Travis Kelce game. The Cowboys give up the 6th least amount of points to the tight end. Or maybe, actually, let me recheck that stat. It actually might be lower than that. They give up the, 30th. So they give up the 3rd least amount of points to the tight end position. So there's only 2 other teams that do better. So, the Cowboys are pretty good at stopping tight ends. So this could be a Tyreek Hill game written all over it. It could be a Hunt game written all over it. So, high scoring game. And I like it. So Alex Smith is my number 7. I got Carson Wentz at 8. Carson Wentz at 8. You know what I mean? Going up against the Broncos, I don't think this game is going to be a very high-scoring game, honestly. I think if they do score, it's going to be Carson Wentz to Zach Ertz. Like I said, you want to check on Zach Ertz, make sure he's definitely playing. Because if he doesn't for some reason, then I'm dropping Carson Wentz out of my top 12. So I'm dropping him out of my top 12 if that is the case. So just make sure you guys pay attention to that, and we'll see what happens. But I'm looking at this here, and I have Cam Newton at 9. All right. So this game here, Cam is going up against Atlanta. I'm having a little bit of trouble with this game. See, the Atlanta Falcons are just not scoring points at all. Like, they're just really bad. So, with the performance that Cam had last weekend, and then losing Kelvin Benjamin, I just don't see... I see this being another low-scoring game. But Cam could do some stuff with his legs, and if that's the case, and that's what happens, Cam can get you some good points, especially if he gets you, 60 yards and a touchdown rushing the ball, which is very possible. I could see Cam definitely finishing in the top 10. All right, so that's basically what I got to say about Cam. I'm not going to go crazy talking about Cam because that game just scares the hell out of me. Jared Goff, I have at 10. Jared Goff, I actually really like in this game. I think, if you are the Watson owner, if you're the Aaron Rodgers owner who is starting to stream quarterbacks, if you are, the Carson Palmer owner who's streaming quarterbacks now, if you're any of the injured quarterbacks who are streaming quarterbacks now, you might want to think about Jared Goff because he is, on the waiver wire and for some reason a lot of leagues, 60%. I think he's 60% owned in ESPN leagues. So, with that being said, I just. There's no Janoris Jenkins in this game, which, for some reason, I haven't heard a lot of people even talk about. Janoris Jenkins is suspended for this game. So without Jenkins, Goff could have a really big game, especially Sammy Watkins. I have Sammy Watkins in my top 20, and I haven't had, or my top 24. He's a RB2 for me, a WR2 for me, and to me, this is a game where Goff could actually have a good game. He throws the ball to Gurley, he throws the ball to Cooper Kupp, he throws the ball to Sammy Watkins. I could just see him having a good game, 2-3 touchdown game, 250 yards, and it's top 12. So I have Mariota at 11. I believe in Marcus Mariota. Getting Corey Davis back, I think, is big for him. The only thing that scares me and why I have him at 11 is that injury to his hamstring. It might limit him. It scares me a little bit. But if he is healthy, I think he's going to ball out. And, getting his top receiver back, I think, is really going to help him. And I just can't wait to see it this weekend. And I have Kirk Cousins at 12. All right, guys, so Kirk Cousins I really don't like in this game. Going to Seattle, his two of his offensive linemen are not going to play in this game. Trent Williams, his main offensive lineman, the best offensive lineman they have, is not going to play in this game. It's just crazy to me to think that Cousins is going to go have a big game. The problem is we have so many bye weeks. So many teams on bye this week with good quarterbacks. Well, I guess I wouldn't say good quarterbacks, starting quarterbacks. We have New England, Tom Brady. We have Chicago. We're not even worried about it. The Vikings, they basically putting up some kind of production. You know what I mean? The Browns, the Steelers, the Chargers. So that's three quarterbacks there that, Roethlisberger and Phillip Rivers. There's three guys there that you're not starting this week. Three of those guys I would definitely put in my top 12 almost every week. So, Cousins was basically the best guy that I could find looking at the numbers. I just couldn't put anybody else there. So, hopefully Kirk Cousins has a game and makes it exciting. But I could just see a Seahawks blowout written all over this game, and we'll see what happens. So I'm going to go with running backs now. So my number one running back of the week is Kareem Hunt. 2 is Zeke. 3 is Gurley. 4 is Fournette. 5 is Peterson. Adrian Peterson, love him this week. I got Mark Ingram at 6, Aaron Jones at 7, Doug Martin at 8, Carlos Hyde at 9, Christian McCaffrey at 10. What did I put here? Lamar Miller at 11, Alvin Kamara at 12, DeMarco Murray at 13, Devontae Freeman at 14, Alex Collins at 15, Joe Mixon at 17, Amir Abdullah at 17, Marshawn Lynch at 18, Jonathan Stewart 19, C.J. Anderson 20, Riddick at 21, Darkwa at 22, Coleman at 23, Tevin Coleman at 23, and Christian Thompson at 24. If you notice, I have Christian Thompson really low this week. Okay, so the Chiefs give up the least amount of points to pass catching running backs, and in the week that Chris Thompson played, I'm going to pull up the stats here right now. In the week that they played, Thompson had a whopping, let's see, Chris Thompson. Okay, so against Kansas City, he had 6 for 23 receiving, and he had 1 for 4, or 6 for, I'm sorry, guys. He's 6 for 23 rushing and 1 for 4 receiving. If he's not catching the ball, he is literally useless. They're not going to give this guy, his highest carry game of the season was week 6 against San Francisco. He had 16 carries for 33 yards. That is terrible, ladies and gentlemen. Against the Los Angeles Rams in week 2 rushing the ball, he had 3 attempts for 77 yards and 2 touchdowns. If you remember, he had that one touchdown which was close, and then the other touchdown which was like a 50-yard rush. This guy is literally giving, he's had 4, 77 in week 2, 38, 23, 33, 38, so 18. Besides his 16 carry game, he had an 8 carry game. And then the rest of them are 3, 3, 6, 7, 4. So, he's literally giving you nothing in the run game. In the receiving game is basically where he is. And the Seahawks are the 3rd best team against pass-catching running backs. They literally shut down pass-catching running backs. So, Chris Thompson, with all the bye weeks, Chicago, New England, the Vikes, Browns, Steelers, Chargers, those are all teams that have pretty good running backs. The Browns, it is what it is. But, all the rest of those teams have good running backs. And you know what? I couldn't figure out who the hell else to put in there but Chris Thompson. When you start getting into, the 20s at running back, it is bleak this week. It is really bad. So, I hate Chris Thompson this week. I recommend you don't play him if you have anything else. But this week is rough. You're going to have to play him, and, I feel bad for you if you do. So, I want to get into, I'm not going to go over everything like I did with the quarterbacks. I just want to jump into a couple of guys. Adrian Peterson this week, I love him, okay? Adrian Peterson, if you watched, was, told by the coaches that they are going to feed the beast this week. And I don't think they're lying. That's not a team that really ever lies about, that's the one thing I do like about the Cardinals. They tell the truth. If they tell you that they're doing something, they do it. If they said it a couple times last year, we're going to feed David Johnson in this game, and David Johnson had 30 touches in some of those games. So if they tell me that they're feeding Adrian Peterson, I believe it. And, that 49ers rush defense is the 2nd worst in the league. They give up the 2nd most touchdowns. We all saw what Zeke did to them, and if that's going to be the case, I freaking love Adrian Peterson. Get him in your daily lineups. Get him in everywhere. Everywhere you can get Adrian Peterson in, play him. I love him this week. We have Mark Ingram. Going against Tampa Bay doesn't really have the ability to stop really anything right now. They're not stopping the run. They're not stopping the pass. They're not stopping anything. So I could see Ingram having a good game, like Mark Ingram. Aaron Jones, I have at 7. Aaron Jones, the Detroit Lions are a little bit hard to figure out. They've given up a touchdown in 3 of the last 4 games to running backs, but they have been pretty effective at stopping the run. The Green Bay Packers are going to have, for the first time all season, all of their linemen playing in this game. So, with that being said, I could see Aaron Jones being fed the rock And if that's the case, if they're going to give him 20 plus touches in this game, I got to rank him in my top 7 or 8. I love the kid's talent. I love watching him on film. I feel like he's a very competent runner. If you were lucky enough to pick him up off of waivers, and you're in a keeper league or a dynasty league, you're loving that right now. But yeah, he looks really good, and he could definitely, I'm very impressed with the kid, and I really like him this week. Doug Martin, there's 3 more running backs I'm going to go over that I really like this week. Doug Martin. Doug has been running the ball very sneakily effective this year. A lot of people are looking at the stat lines and going, he's not really doing much. But if you watch the games, he looks explosive. He is due for a breakout game, and this might be it. I know the Saints have been better at stopping the run. They've been a better defense, period, but I don't know how much I believe that. They've gone up against some really bad teams. They've gone up against, the Dolphins and, just a couple of bad teams that, I don't know if they're legit. I have to see them be, pressed. And in this game, I think they could be pressed. And I like Doug Martin a lot this week. I have Alvin Kamara at 12. I told you guys I had both the Saints running backs in my top 12. Alvin Kamara has just looked really good this year. I think he's a superstar in the making. He looks electric with the ball in his hands, and it's fun to watch this kid play football. So I just against Tampa Bay can't really stop anything. I feel like he's gonna get 10 to 12 to 14 carries, or 14 touches, and with that amount of touches, I think this kid could be good. You know what I mean? With a limited amount of touches, he's still scoring a lot of fantasy points. And they're not afraid to give him the ball near the goal line, as you saw last week. So, like him this week. Amir Abdullah, I have at 17. Amir Abdullah, I actually have in some fantasy lineups this week. I'm going to say this. This is the last week that I'm really going to give Amir Abdullah a shot. If he doesn't have a good game this week, I think I'm giving up on him. This is a good matchup. The Green Bay Packers have been not very good at stopping the run. I think they're 26th in the league at stopping the run. So he's set up for a good matchup here. And, I want to see them give him the ball. And if they do that, I think he could have a good game. He's definitely an RB2 for me this week. But, like I said, if he doesn't pan out this week, I might have to just be done with him. And the last running back I want to talk about is Jonathan Stewart. I have him at 19. Jonathan Stewart has not been good this year. He's been very bad, and I know a lot of the fantasy experts or so-called fantasy experts have been telling you to drop him. But if you look at his matchups the rest of season, he has some juicy-ass matchups. And I am going to tell you what they are. Let's see here. Mark Ingram. Jonathan Stewart. Let's see. Yeah, but he does have some really good matchups coming up. And not only does he have good matchups, but, a lot of people have been listening to, the fantasy guys, and they're saying, they don't understand what the hell they're talking about when they were saying about Calvin Benjamin leaving and that opening up the offense. It's not hard to figure out. Okay, so to expand the offense, this is the thing. Okay, so Calvin Benjamin is not a fast wide receiver. Neither is Devin Funchess. They're both basically the same guy on both sides of the field. Now, Calvin Benjamin does get deep, but he's not burning past people to get deep. He's kind of catching balls deep contested. They're almost always contested when he catches the ball, right? So Chris Samuels, if you guys remember him from the draft this year, is lightning fast. This kid is really fast. He opens up the field, and that's what they're talking about. Getting rid of Calvin Benjamin, to me, was dumb. They should have gotten rid of Funchess and seen what they got for Funchess. But, I'm not the GM of the Panthers. But, with Calvin Benjamin gone, now they can play Samuels. With Samuels being out there, it does open up the field because now you have a long speed deep threat on the field. And if Cam connects with him a couple of times, just for 15, 20 yards catches here and there, that is going to open up the field. The offensive line has not been good this year. I've watched every Panthers game this year. The offensive line has been terrible, but they've been missing their center, Matt Khalil, and is just they've not been a good offensive line. But in this game against Atlanta, I think they are going to try to run the rock, and I think Jonathan Stewart's going to get 15 or more carries in this game, and I think they're going to force feed him the ball to try to really pound this team. So if that's the case and Jonathan Stewart is going to get the carries, I like him this week. I wouldn't say start him with confidence, but I wouldn't be scared to start him. If I had to start him, I would be okay with that. All right, so we're going to go wide receivers. At 1, I got Dez. At 2, I got Tyreek Hill. I told you guys I was really high on Tyreek Hill. I have Julio at 3. I have Doug Baldwin at 4. I have Hopkins at 5. Crabtree at 6. Landry at 7, Evans at 8, Green at 9, Cooper at 10, Demaryius Thomas at 11, Michael Thomas at 12, Emmanuel Sanders at 13, T.Y. Hilton at 14. I love T.Y. this week, and I'm going to talk about him. I have Shepard at 15. I have Devontae Parker at 16. I have Larry Fitz at 17. I have Marvin Jones 18. I have Jordy Nelson 19. I have Golden Tate 20. Alshon Jeffrey is 21. Funches at 22. Macklin at 23. Richardson at 24. Sammy Watkins at 25. Aguilar at 26. Rashard Matthews at 27. Corey Davis at 28. Mohamed Sanu at 29. Devontae Adams at 30. Cooper Kupp at 31. Tyler Lockett at 32. Marquise Lee at 33. Alan Hearns at 34, Ted Ginn at 35, and Russell Shepard at 36. Now, I'm going to go over 6 guys. Let's see here. We are 38 minutes into the podcast, so I'm going to speed it up a little bit, guys. All right, so Tyreek Hill at 2. I told you guys, Dallas has not been able to stop anything, and they really have a tough time stopping number one wide receivers. And Tyreek Hill is going to go bananas in this game. If you've noticed this year, Tyreek Hill has been going off in away games. I don't understand why. I don't really have an answer to that question, why he has been going off in away games, but for some reason he has. And I'll give you the numbers real quick. At New England, he went for 7 for 133 and a touchdown. At the Chargers, he went for 5 for 77 and a touchdown. At Houston, he was 4 for 68, no touchdown. At Oakland, he was 6 for 125 and a touchdown. So that's 4 away games, and he had over 70 yards, over 68 yards in every one of the games. Like I said, I don't know why, but he has been very good away this year. And going up against Dallas, a team that has not really been able to stop anything, I really like him this week. I can see him having a very big game. A 6 for 125 and a touchdown this game. And that's not including what he does on those little rushing patterns they give him, and little end arounds and things like that. I could see him catching a drag route and taking it 60 yards to the house tomorrow. So keep an eye on that. And if you have Tyreek, start him. Please start him. So the next guy I want to talk about, I have Michael Crabtree at 6. Like I said, I think this game is going to be a shootout. I think it's going to be one of those sneaky shootouts that nobody really expects. And I like Michael Crabtree, and I like Amari Cooper at 6 and 10. Cooper could catch a long touchdown. Crabtree could have a touchdown or 2. And, I like them both in this game, and I could see it being a pretty high-scoring game. I also have Landry at 7, and I have Devontae Parker at 15. So, like I said, or 16. I'm sorry, but I still have them ranked in my top 20. I just like this game, and if you guys have those players, please start them. Michael Thomas, I have 12. Now, I told you guys, I was a little bit scared about the running backs over in the Saints going off in this game. Michael Thomas has not really had a great season. He hasn't been bad as some people are making it out to be, but he's been very solid. He's not been good. He's not been bad. He's just been okay. He's 5 for 45, 5 for 89, 5 for 87, or 7 for 87 and a touch, 8 for 89 and a touch, 3 for 11. That was just a really bad game against Detroit. He had 7 for 82, and then 7 for 77. So he's just been he's been solid. He's been very solid for you. He's getting you double digits every week basically, and other than 2 weeks, he's getting you double digits. So he's just been very solid. He hasn't been as good as he was last year. Last year I think he had 13 touchdowns or maybe 11 touchdowns, something around there, and he was very, very good. So he's not on pace to do what he did last year touchdown-wise, but he's basically on pace to yardage-wise to do what he did last year. So, touchdowns I tell you guys all the time, is a very weird thing. Sometimes they're there, sometimes they're not. So, this looks like one of those years where they're not so much. So, but in this game, he could go off. You know what I mean? It's just, if you have him, you're starting him. There's no question. But, just temper expectations because he's not been amazing this year. So, like I said, just temper the expectations, and, I wouldn't be trading him away or anything crazy like that. Michael Thomas will get better. If you look at his matchups, he's got Buffalo. He's going to Buffalo next week. Then he's got Washington, the Rams, the Cardinals, Atlanta, the Jets, Atlanta. So, he's got really good matchups coming up. So don't go crazy. Just wait it out. Hopefully he finishes the year with 8 touchdowns and 1,100 receiving yards to 1,200 receiving yards, and that's a good. That's a wide receiver 1. The next guy I want to talk about is Larry Fitzgerald, and the reason I want to talk about Larry is Drew Stanton last year in this game. I believe Larry had 7 catches for 60 yards and 2 touchdowns against San Fran last year, and it was Drew Stanton throwing him the ball. So, in this game, I could see Larry having an okay game. You know what I mean? I don't think he's going to be 2 touchdowns this week, but I think he can get in the box and get 50, 60 yards. So if that's the case, he's good. He's a wide receiver too. I saw a lot of people trading Larry away, just scared of what was going to come with Drew Stanton at quarterback. Drew Stanton is not a good quarterback by any stretch, but he can make the throws. His problem is when he starts getting pressured and starts feeling the heat, he is just a terrible decision maker. And Larry is going to be his first read a lot of the time. So hopefully he gets open and catches us some passes and scores a touchdown. I'll talk about 2 more guys. So Sammy Watkins is somebody that I love this week, and honestly, I really like him rest of season. I think Sammy Watkins is, over the stretch of games that he was useless in. Yeah, if you looked at his games, he was useless in, I would say, 4 of the last 5 games. Completely useless. I'm trying to pull up his stats. Where is he? But he's just been very, very, very bad. And, I don't think that is going to continue all season long. I do think Sammy Watkins is a pretty good wide receiver, and it's not just because I'm a Bills fan. He is a very good wide receiver. If you watch the over the head catch he had in, I believe it was week 3, where he had that 2 touchdown game, it was a phenomenal catch. It's not a catch that just some everyday schmo is going to catch. The guy is a very, very talented wide receiver. So, with that being said, I like Sammy Watkins this week. No Janoris Jenkins. I brought that up earlier. And without Janoris Jenkins, guess what? Sammy's going to feed. He is going to eat. So, Sammy in the past, like I said, 4 games. 1 for 17. A donut. 1 for 11. 3 for 43. 3 for 42. So, 7 points. You're probably not happy with that, but the second half of his season it's wonderful. I love his second half of his season. Okay, so listen, he's got the Giants this week with no Janoris Jenkins. He has Houston next week. Houston, we saw what the hell the Seahawks did to them last week. They can't stop anything in the passing game. Then he's got Minnesota, which is a tough Xavier Rhodes matchup. But then he's got New Orleans, and they're talking about no more Delvin Breaux. He's going to be probably out for the rest of the season. And he plays Arizona at Arizona. Patrick Peterson, we're worried about that. But then he's got Philly. He's got Seattle again. He had a donut against Seattle, so you're worried about that. But then he plays Tennessee in the Super Bowl, in your fantasy Super Bowl. So, out of those matchups, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games that I love him, and 1, 2, 3 games that I'm a little bit worried. I guess very worried. So, if I can get him for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games at, with good matchups, I love Sammy Watkins rest of season, and if you can pick him up off the waiver wire, please do that, because rest of season he is going to be good. All right, and the last guy I want to talk about is Corey Davis. I talked about him earlier. If you can get him, please pick him up. I'm not going to go elaborate further because you guys heard what I had to say about him earlier. But, if you can go get him, he's available. Please go get him. The kid is an uber talent, and, he is going to pay off for you. I promise you he's going to be good. So, if you are needy at wide receiver, you really need help, please go get him and help yourself out. All right. Now we will go to the tight ends. Tight ends this week, I have Zach Ertz at 1. I have Evan Ingram at 2. I have Jimmy Graham at 3. Witten at 4. Braid at 5. Kelsey at 6. Doyle at 7. Jared Cook at 8. Croft at 9. Watson at 10. I have Vernon Davis at 11. And Kobe Fleener at 12. Okay? I'll talk about 3 of these guys. I have Kelsey at 6. I already talked about Kelsey. The Dallas Cowboys give up the 3rd least amount of points to the tight end position. I think they're going to game plan to take Kelsey out of this game, knowing how much of a threat he is near the red zone. And I think they'll have success doing that. So, you're starting Kelsey because he's a phenomenal talent, but, I just worried about him this week. The other guy I want to talk about is Jason Witten. I have him in a lot of FanDuel lineups, a lot of DraftKings lineups. Love Jason Witten this week. I really do think Dak is going to have a big game, and I think that's going to be because of Dez, and it's going to be because of Witten. So I really like those two in this game, and Witten is my number 4. So if you have Witten, please start him this week. And the last guy I want to talk about is Vernon Davis. I have Vernon Davis on this list because there's a lot of bye week teams that are not tight ends that are not playing. Vernon Davis does worry me in this game. The Seahawks have not been great against tight ends, but they're just a really good defense, and they got really burned by the Houston Texans last week. I think they're a little pissed off about that, and I could see them, throwing up a freaking 10 spot to the Redskins, not letting them score more than 10. And if that's the case, I don't know how much Vernon Davis is going to get, but in a week where, it's hard to figure out what tight ends to choose from, I think Vernon Davis is a good enough chance as any with no Jordan Reed to score some points. And I will talk about Colby Fleener real quick. Colby Fleener seems to play better at home, and if you need a tight end. He is, I'll give you what he is owned right now. Kobe Fleener is the, let's bring this back. Alright, so Kobe Fleener is the tight end. Let's see here. Kobe Fleener. So Kobe Fleener at home. He's had 3 for 33 and a touch. He had a 0 against Detroit. I don't remember if he played in that game actually. And then he didn't do anything against Chicago either, but Chicago's a good defense. Against Tampa Bay, they're not able to stop anything. I could see Kobe Fleener doing, a similar game to, against what he did in New England, 33 and a touch. So, I don't think he's going to blow up. I have him as my number 12 tight end. But, if he catches you a touchdown, that's basically all you need from your tight end, and he could do that this week. All right, so defenses, guys. We have the Eagles at 1, Jaguars at 2, Cards at 3, Texans at 4, the Rams at 5, the Lions at 6, the Bengals at 7, the Saints at 8, the Seahawks at 9, the Broncos at 10, the Panthers at 11, and the 49ers at 12. There's not really any defense I really want to talk about except the Eagles. Brock Osweiler is the quarterback of the Denver Broncos now. We all know what a train wreck that guy is. The one thing I will say is when he did play for Denver last time, Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders both had respectable numbers. They were, I think they were both on pace for 80 catches. Demaryius Thomas was on pace for maybe like 10 touchdowns, and I believe Emmanuel Sanders might have been somewhere around 8 touchdowns or 7 touchdowns. And both of them over 1,000 yards receiving. So those are good numbers. And, I know Brock Osweiler has been terrible. And, the Eagles defense is probably going to smash him, which is why I have them at 1. But I wouldn't be surprised if Brock Osweiler doesn't have a terrible game. And, he just knows Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders and gels with them, maybe, Those are guys that he played with for a very long time together. And, maybe it works out that they are good with him. But, I'm still going to pick on the Eagles to smash them. And, hopefully I'm right. And you guys start them in your fantasy lineups. So, with that being said, that is the end of the podcast, guys. If you guys have any questions, any comments, anything you guys want to let us know, you guys can catch us on Facebook. Our Facebook page is 4th and Inches, the number 4th inches fantasy football, and then it's Facebook Live /podcast. If you guys want to hit us up on there and ask any questions, you can. You could always look for my personal Facebook page. It's Steve Perez. You can find it as a picture of me and my son cutting his birthday cake. So if you guys want to hit me up, send me invites. You know what I mean? Send me invites, guys. I will accept your invites, and you guys can ask me anything. I get back to everyone that asks me questions within that day. It might not be immediate, but within that day, I'll definitely get back to you and answer any lineup questions or any fantasy football questions you guys might have. So with that being said, you guys have a very good fantasy week. I hope everybody wins big, and takes home the wins. All right, guys. So let's get it.